Welcome to this Algebra 2 session on Solving Rational Equations Part 2. So we're going to be solving real-world problems involving rational equations. And these are work problems, which you probably will see some of these in the PSSA testing or SAT testing. So it's a good idea to know how to do them. And they have a definite pattern. So once you see the pattern, they're pretty easy to understand from there. It might just be a little difficult in the beginning seeing how the pattern works, how to set them up. So it takes Tom 4 hours to build a fence. If he hires Jack to help him, together they can do the job in just 3 hours. If Jack built the same fence alone, how long would it take him? Well, we know when we're working with word problems, we need to define a variable. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our variables. So we have that we're asked to find how long it would take Jack to build the fence alone. So that's going to be our first variable here. X is the amount of time or hours that it takes Jack to build the fence. We know that it takes 4 hours for Tom to build the fence, and then the time together that it takes them is 3 hours. So what are we looking at doing? Well, what we have here, how we set this up, is we know that the fraction of the job that Jack completes in 3 hours plus the fraction of the job that Tom completes in 3 hours is equal to one job. So that makes sense because they're each going to complete a part of it in that total time of 3 hours, and putting that together is the total job time, or total job. So what we do is set up fractions based on the fraction of the job that Jack completes in 3 hours and the fraction of the job that Tom completes in 3 hours. So the fraction of the job that Jack completes in 3 hours will be oops, get my pen working here. Alright, I can't seem to write on the board at all. Hang on 1 second. My little pen doesn't like me today. There we go. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so the fraction of the job that Jack completes in 3 hours will be 3, the total time it takes them to complete the job, over the time, the number of hours it takes Jack. So Jack can complete a 3-hour job in 3 over X. And then plus the fraction of the job Tom completes in 3 hours would be 3 over his total time, which is 4. So he completes 3/4 of the job, and we're looking at how much Jack completes, adding it together, and that equals 1 total job. So from here, you're going to do what we've been doing last lesson for solving rational equations. You're going to look at your least common denominator, which is multiplying our denominators here, 4x, and we're going to multiply each part of our equation by 4x. So it'll be 3x times 4x plus 3/4 times 4x equal to 1 times 4x. So multiplying here, 3 over x times 4x, the x's cancel and we get 12, plus 3/4 times 4x, and we can put that over 1, gives us 3x equal to 4x. And if we finish solving that, subtract 3x from both sides, and that gives us 12. So x represents the hours it takes Jack, so it takes Jack 12 hours. So if you look at it in this way, Jack completes 3/12 of the job in 3 hours. So 3/12 is 1/4. So he completes 1/4 of the job, where Tom completes 3/4, and adding 1/4 and 3/4 does give you 1. So you can check it. But the answer that they were looking for is how long will it take Jack. So it takes Jack 12 Takes Jack 12 hours. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Wilma can mow the lawn in 3 hours. If Kyle helps her with another mower, the lawn can be mowed in 2 hours. How long would it take Kyle if he worked alone? So we can set up Kyle as our variable here. Amount of hours it takes Kyle is X. It takes Wilma 3 hours, and together it takes them 2. So again, we're going to be looking at the same relationship again. Fraction of the job that Kyle completes in X hours plus the fraction of the job that Wilma completes in 3 hours is going to equal 1 job. So if you can get it straight that what you're doing is you're putting the time together as always your numerator. Time together is your numerator. Your denominator is going to be their individual times. So we can write that off to the side here. It's going to be time together over individual times. That's how you're setting these up. So it takes them 2 hours together, and it takes Kyle X hours. It takes them 2 hours together, and it takes Wilma 3 hours. So Wilma completes 2/3 of the job, and we just need to know how much. And you may be able to catch on to this where you don't even have to solve it in this way. Because really, guys, what you're looking for is 2/3 plus 2 over what gives you 1. That's what you're looking for, at least in these. So we get a least common denominator. Our least common denominator here is 3x, multiplying our two denominators together. And we're going to multiply each by the common denominator. So I'm just going to rewrite it here first. So we're multiplying by 3x over 1 times 3x over 1 times 3x. And the x's cancel in the first one, leaving us with 6, plus the 3's cancel. 2x equal to 1 times 3x is 3x. Subtract 2x from each side, and we get x equals 6. So it takes Kyle 6 hours. And if we put the 6 back in here for x, you can see that 2/6 is 1/3. 1/3 plus 2/3 is 1. So it takes Kyle 1/3, or he completes 1/3 of the job, and Wilma completes 2/3. So she completes more. She's faster at mowing those lawns. All right, so next, we like it when the girls are faster. No offense, guys. All right, moving on. Norm and Cliff, I'm called Norm a girl now. Norm and Cliff can paint the office in 5 hours working together. Being a professional painter, Norm can paint twice as fast as Cliff. How long would it take Cliff to paint the office by himself? Well, if we make Cliff our variable here, Cliff is going to be x. That's the amount of time it takes Cliff to paint the office. And this is where you need to think about it a little bit. Norm can paint twice as fast as Cliff. So automatically, some of us would be thinking, oh, that's going to be 2x. Well, it's not, because Norm can paint faster, so his time should be less. So if it takes Cliff 8 hours, it's only going to take Norm 4 hours, because we cut that time in half, because he paints twice as fast. If Cliff paints it in 16 hours, Norm can do it in 8. If Cliff paints it in 4, Norm can do it in 2. So the time together is 5. All right, so when we set this up, again, it's going to be the same thing, time together, 5 over x, plus, for Cliff, for Norm, time together, over the time it takes Cliff. If you look, though, we end up with a compound fraction here. And, of course, that's equal to 1. But I can quickly change this compound fraction, because 5 divided by x over 2 means 5 divided by the fraction x over 2. So I can change that to be 5 divided by x over 2 is 5 times 2 over x, which is 10 over x. So I'm going to replace that fraction with 10 over x. So least common denominator here is just going to be your x. Because remember, if we have the same thing in both denominators, we only use it once for our least common denominator. And I'm going to multiply everything by x. Multiply everything by your least common denominator. And the x's cancel, giving us a 5. The x's cancel, giving us a 10. And 1 times x is x. So 5 plus 10 is 15. And I have my answer for the amount of time it takes Cliff. Oops, 15 hours. So I'm going to put there. Okay, so you could have set this up a little bit differently. If you made norm x, then Cliff would be 2x. You could do that. But just keeping it as straightforward as possible, this is your easier way. Cliff is 15 hours. All right, last but not least, we're going to look at the last one here. Yahir can assemble a book 3 times faster than Malaya. Together they can do the job in 2 hours. How long would it take each of them working alone? So they don't tell us what, who to define as the variable. So you can do it either way. If you don't want to deal with a fraction like we had to on the last problem, meaning a fraction for Norm's time, what I did here to show you the difference is I made Yahir's time x. So if it takes x hours for Yahir, it's going to take 3x for Malaya, because it does take, oh, I put Malaya, it's Malaya. Malaya's time is going to be longer because Yahir can do it 3 times faster. So if Yahir is x, if it takes Yahir 3 hours, it takes Malaya 9 hours. The time it takes them together is 2 hours. So we're setting up the same thing again. As I said, these work the same. 2 over x plus 2 over 3x timed together over individual times equal to 1. And then least common denominator is 3x. So we multiply both by our 3x. Two over x times 3x will give us 2 times 3, which is 6. 2 over 3x times 3x will leave us with a 2 because the 3 and the x cancel. And 1 times 3x is 3x. 6 plus 2 gives us 8, equal to 3x. Divide both sides by 3, and we get 8/3. So if you divide 8/3, you get about 2.7. So the time it takes, if you want to divide that, I mean, you can leave it as a fraction, it doesn't matter, but you get approximately 2.7 for Yahir. And then to find Malaya's, it'll be 3 times 2.7, which is, if we multiply that by 3, we get 8. Now, guys, I do have to tell you that when I put 3 times 2.7 isn't 8 exactly. I did 3 times that whole decimal on my calculator, so that gives me 8. Or 3 times 8/3, you're going to get 8. So that's how I got exactly 8. So those are their 2 times, and that is it. Have a great day.